Brandon Ingram just named by Adam Silver as Steph Curry's all-star injury replacement this weekend down in LA. A very cool honor for Ingram, his second all-star nod, first since 2019-20 in his first year with the Pelicans.
Stephen Curry just got replaced in the 2026 All-Star Game. Brandon Ingram is taking his spot, and while the internet is losing its mind over a quote Curry allegedly made about the whole situation, cancel it, Brandon Ingram is a bitch, and you wouldn't believe Ingram's reply. The knee, the absence, and the announcement that shook All-Star Weekend. Stephen Curry is not going to be in the 2026 NBA All-Star Game. That sentence alone carries enough weight to shift the entire energy of a weekend that was supposed to showcase the league's boldly reimagined format, a weekend designed to generate excitement about the future direction of the mid-season spectacle and prove to skeptics that the NBA could reinvent its marquee exhibition event into something worth watching with genuine interest. Instead, the biggest story heading into February 15th at Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California, is not about who will be performing under the lights, but about who will be watching from a distance with his right knee elevated and wrapped in recovery protocols. On February 10th, 2026, the NBA officially announced that Toronto Raptors forward Brandon Ingram would replace the injured Golden State Warriors guard on the USA Stripes roster, a decision made directly by Commissioner Adam Silver after Curry was ruled out due to a lingering right knee injury that has stubbornly refused to cooperate with the timeline everyone in the Warriors organization was hoping for. The injury in question is right patellofemoral pain syndrome, commonly referred to as runner's knee, an overuse condition that causes persistent pain around or behind the kneecap due to inflammation and irritation in the patellofemoral joint. To be clear about what this is and what it is not a structural tear, it is not ligament damage, it is not a meniscus issue, and it is not the kind of catastrophic injury that ends careers or seasons in a single devastating moment on the hardwood, but it has been painful and persistent enough to sideline one of the greatest shooters in the history of organized basketball at a critical juncture of the season when the Warriors desperately need his presence on the floor and his gravitational pull, stretching opposing defenses to their breaking point every single possession. The timeline of how this unfolded tells the story of a body fighting against the relentless demands placed upon it by professional athletics at the highest level. The issue first flared up roughly 2 weeks before early February during what was described as a routine individual workout, the kind of solo session that is supposed to be low risk and unremarkable. Curry initially missed a January 26th game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, sat that one out as a precautionary measure, then returned for 2 consecutive outings where he scored 27 and 23 points respectively, performances that suggested to everyone watching that the worst had passed and the knee was cooperating with the treatment plan. But on January 30th, in a home loss to the Detroit Pistons, Curry exited in the third quarter, limping off the court visibly, the pain having intensified beyond what he could manage through willpower and adrenaline alone. That was the turning point that changed everything about his February. From that moment forward, the consecutive absences began piling up with no clear end date in sight. He missed 4 straight games, then 5, including a February 9th victory over the Memphis Grizzlies and the upcoming February 11th matchup against the San Antonio Spurs. Warriors coach Steve Kerr characterized the situation publicly as day-to-day, but opted for the cautious route that anyone managing a 37-year-old superstar with 4 championship rings would choose. Curry would sit out the All-Star Game entirely and use the break as extended healing time, treating the mid-season exhibition as an opportunity for recovery rather than a stage that demanded his attendance. The target for his return became the first post-break contest on February 19th against the Boston Celtics at Chase Center, giving him approximately 20 days of rest and intensive rehabilitation to get the knee right. Curry himself addressed the frustration of navigating this recovery in comments reported by ESPN, stating, "It's a matter of learning as I go what works rehab-wise, because it's still painful. You have to try to get rid of all the inflammation and pain. It's something we still have to monitor and injury manage, but it's something where, if I come back too early, it could flare up." That quote captures the delicate tightrope he is walking, acknowledging openly that the pain has not fully subsided, that the inflammation management is an ongoing daily battle rather than a solved equation, and that rushing back carries the very real risk of a flare-up that could cost him far more than a single exhibition exhibition game in February. For a player who has built his entire career on movement, on constant cutting and sprinting and changing direction at full speed to free himself for shots that no one else in the sport can make, knee pain is not a minor inconvenience. It strikes at the mechanical foundation of everything that makes him the most devastating offensive weapon of his generation. An MRI conducted after the Pistons game revealed no severe structural findings, but the fact that the Warriors medical staff ordered imaging at all speaks volumes about the level of concern surrounding a guard who turns 38 in March and has already missed 15 games this season across a range of ailments including illness, a quad contusion, ankle soreness, and earlier bouts of the same knee inflammation that is currently sidelining him. The organization is prioritizing the long view with no ambiguity whatsoever. Runner's knee is managed through rest, anti-inflammation protocols, physical therapy, and a gradual return to play progression designed specifically to prevent recurrence, and at Curry's age with genuine playoff aspirations still alive for Golden State, burning him for an exhibition event that has been overhauled into a completely untested format makes zero basketball sense. Which brings us to the replacement. Commissioner Adam Silver selected Brandon Ingram to fill the vacated roster spot on USA Stripes. Ingram is averaging 22.0 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game for the 32-22 Toronto Raptors, who sit fifth in the Eastern Conference, and the selection marks his second career All-Star appearance. The initial report came from Shams Charania, with the NBA issuing formal confirmation shortly thereafter. What raised eyebrows immediately was the cross-conference nature of the selection. Curry is a Western Conference player while Ingram plays in the East, but the 2026 format eliminates the East versus West framework entirely, replacing it with a round-robin tournament featuring USA Stars, USA Stripes, and a Team World roster of international players. Since all American-born players are pooled across two domestic teams rather than divided by conference, the league had full latitude to slot Ingram into Curry's vacancy regardless of geography, and that technicality became the first spark in what would become a wildfire of online debate. The broader context of Curry's absence extends well beyond the All-Star game itself and into the Warriors' season-long battle to remain competitive in a brutally deep Western Conference. At 37 years old, Curry has already missed 15 games this season due to a rotating cast of minor ailments, illness, a quad contusion, ankle soreness, and now this knee inflammation that has proven far more stubborn than anyone initially anticipated. Each missed game represents not just a statistical absence from the box score, but a fundamental shift in how opposing teams defend Golden State. Without Curry on the floor, the spacing collapses, the off-ball movement loses its primary decoy, and the Warriors transform from an elite offensive unit into a team that has to grind for every basket in the half court. The hope within the organization is that the 20-day recovery window provided by sitting out the All-Star break will be sufficient to get Curry back to full health for the stretch run toward the postseason. But hope and certainty are very different things when you are dealing with a chronic overuse condition in a joint that absorbs punishment on every single step a basketball player takes. The debate, the snubs, and why Ingram's name became a lightning rod. The moment the announcement went public, the discourse ignited across every platform where basketball fans gathered to voice their opinions. Fan reaction across X, Reddit, Instagram, and YouTube was immediate, passionate, and overwhelmingly divided, with threads and comment sections transforming into battlegrounds within minutes of the news breaking. High engagement content creators in the basketball YouTube space were already recording reaction videos with titles designed to maximize outrage clicks, and podcast hosts were scrambling to record emergency segments dissecting every angle of the decision. The central question driving the entire debate was not whether Ingram deserved to be an all-star on his own merit. His numbers and Toronto's fifth place standing in the East made a case that could withstand reasonable scrutiny, but rather whether he was the single most deserving replacement, specifically for the roster spot that Stephen Curry had left vacant. The name that kept surfacing in every comment section, every quote tweet, every podcast breakdown recorded that evening was Austin Reeves. Multiple fan communities argued with conviction that Reeves, a Western Conference guard whose statistical profile some viewed as stronger than Ingram's in certain key categories, was the more logical and meritorious fill-in. The fact that the new format made conference affiliation technically irrelevant did nothing to quiet that argument. If anything, it intensified the frustration, because the perceived flexibility meant Silver could have chosen literally anyone from the pool of eligible American-born players, and the resulting universe of candidates who felt passed over expanded enormously. enormously. Comments range from measured disagreement to outright hostility, with some fans declaring they would not watch the game at all without Curry, and others insisting the entire event should be canceled in protest. This frustration layered directly on top of an already contentious All-Star selection cycle that had produced notable snubs including James Harden, Kawhi Leonard prior to his late addition, and Joel Embiid. The Harden omission drew heavy and sustained backlash from fans who felt his season warranted inclusion without question. Leonard's initial exclusion was especially ironic, given that the game was taking place at Intuit Dome, the home arena of the Clippers where Leonard plays, meaning the host venue's own franchise player was not originally invited to the event being held in his own building, and Embiid's absence raised pointed questions about whether the selection process rewarded individual statistical performance or simply rubber-stamped players from winning teams. Even LeBron James's inclusion on the USA stripes became a flashpoint. Some fans and analysts questioned whether LeBron had earned the nod based on this season's production, or whether his legacy and name recognition carried him onto the roster over more deserving candidates. Comments describing him as having no business on the All-Star team circulated widely, though Lakers supporters countered that fan voting, which constitutes a significant portion of the selection, reflects popularity as much as performance. The broader reaction to the format itself amplified the noise further. The round-robin structure was designed to boost competitiveness and highlight the NBA's global talent pool, but large portions of the fan base viewed it as a gimmick, a shiny wrapper on a product whose fundamental problem was never structural, but motivational. The stubborn reality that the best players in the world do not try hard in exhibition games was not going to be solved by rearranging the teams. The Team World roster drew its own criticism. Inclusions like Pascal Siakam and Deni Avdija were questioned by fans who felt the international team was padded to fill a quota, with one widely shared comment noting it feels like the NBA needed exactly 8 international players, so they handed out a selection. The counter-argument that Siakam's consistency with Indiana and Avdija's breakout in Portland had both been legitimately excellent rarely gained traction, because nuance generates far less engagement than outrage on social media platforms optimized for conflict. Amid all of this controversy, Ingram himself responded with composure that stood in sharp contrast to the chaos surrounding his name. He acknowledged his status directly, framing it as motivation rather than a slight. As reported by ESPN, Ingram stated, "I wasn't selected to be an all-star right away. I was a replacement. I'm motivated. I'm inspired by that." That response carried weight because it reflected a self-awareness that diffused much of the criticism aimed in his direction. He was not claiming to be the equal of Stephen Curry or asserting he deserved the spot over anyone else. He was accepting the honor with the acknowledgement that the chip on his shoulder would sharpen his focus heading into Sunday's game. The Raptors organization and fan base embraced the moment fully. Toronto's 32-22 record represented a legitimate resurgence for a franchise that spent recent seasons mired in rebuilding and lottery positioning, and Ingram's all-star nod served as validation that the front office's decision to acquire him was paying dividends on the court and in the national conversation. The Locked On Raptors podcast captured this sentiment perfectly in its February 10th episode, where host Sean Woodley broke down the Raptors' playoff positioning and the specific matchup advantages Ingram provides against teams lacking wing defenders.
For you, and so I would say the Cavs are the next team on the list here. The most preferred of these 3 potential first-round matchups.
In that analysis, Cleveland was ranked as Toronto's most favorable playoff opponent, largely because the Cavaliers lacked the wing defenders necessary to contain both Ingram and Scotty Barnes across a 7-game series where adjustments compound and weaknesses get exposed repeatedly.
But if you're up against a team that has a great defense and sort of a middling offense, and by the way, the Detroit Pistons have a worse half-court offense.
That granular breakdown underscored exactly why Ingram's selection matters beyond the individual accolade. It signals that the Raptors are being taken seriously as a playoff contender, with Ingram's isolation scoring and ability to create and finish through contact central to that identity. His all-star nod is not just a personal achievement, it is a franchise milestone in a season that has exceeded every preseason projection Toronto received. As for Curry's reaction to being replaced, answer is both simple and deeply unsatisfying for anyone hoping for drama. There has been no public statement, no social media post, no reported comment from Curry or his representatives expressing any displeasure toward Ingram or the selection process. Every piece of coverage surrounding Curry has focused exclusively on his injury management, his rehabilitation timeline, and the Warriors' hope that he returns healthy after the break. The inflammatory quote circulating in clickbait headlines and thumbnail images across the internet is entirely unsubstantiated. No credible source has tied Curry to any negative commentary about Brandon Ingram, and no evidence exists that he has expressed anything other than a focus on getting his knee right. The disconnect between the fabricated narrative and the actual reality of this situation reveals something fundamental about how basketball content is consumed and produced in 2026. The quote attributed to Curry, the one suggesting he wanted the game canceled and directed a vulgar insult at Ingram, does not appear in any news report, on Curry's verified social media accounts, in any press conference transcript, or in any interview conducted by a credible journalist. It exists exclusively in the ecosystem of engagement bait content designed to generate clicks, views, and comment section arguments by manufacturing conflict where none exists. Curry and Ingram have no history of animosity, no documented beef, and no reason to be at odds over a standard injury replacement process that the commissioner handles multiple times every single All-Star cycle. The story here is not drama between two players. The story is the lengths to which content creators will go to fabricate drama for algorithmic reward. The new format, the predictions, and what Sunday looks like without Curry. With Curry officially out and Ingram officially in, the focus shifts to what the 2026 All-Star Game will actually look like when it tips off on Sunday, February 15th at Intuit Dome. And for the first time in the modern era of the event, nobody truly knows what to expect because the format is entirely new and completely untested at this level of competition. The 75th edition of the All-Star Game replaces the traditional East versus West matchup with a competitive round-robin mini-tournament featuring 3 distinct teams: USA Stars, USA Stripes, and Team World, each playing multiple games in a single evening with a championship on the line. The tournament structure breaks down into 4 12-minute games played consecutively on Sunday evening, beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Game 1 pits the USA Stars against Team World. Game 2 matches the winner of Game 1 against USA Stripes. Game 3 features the loser of Game 1 against the USA Stripes. After those 3 round-robin contests, the top 2 teams by win-loss record advance to Game 4, the championship final. If all 3 teams finish 1-1, the tiebreaker is point differential across each team's 2 games, adding a layer of strategic consideration that the traditional format never possessed. Running up the score matters, and garbage time becomes a foreign concept. The prize pool has been structured to incentivize genuine effort rather than the casual jogging and half-hearted defense that has defined all-star games for the past decade. $1.8 million total, with championship game winners receiving $125,000 each, runners-up earning $50,000, and third-place finishers collecting $25,000. Whether those figures move the competitive needle for players earning tens of millions annually in salary and endorsements remains the fundamental question this entire format overhaul is attempting to answer. History suggests that financial incentives alone have never been sufficient to make All-Stars play defense in February, but the NBA is betting that shorter games with elimination stakes might accomplish what money alone cannot. The USA Stripes roster that Ingram is now joining features LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard, and Norman Powell, coached by Mitch Johnson. That is a veteran-heavy lineup with championship pedigree distributed across multiple players, deep scoring versatility from every spot on the floor, and enough defensive talent to theoretically lock in during 12-minute windows if the motivation to compete is present. The absence of Curry removes the team's most prolific three-point threat and the kind of off-ball movement that forces defenses into impossible rotations, but Durant and Brown provide their own perimeter gravity, and Brunson's pick-and-roll mastery gives the unit a different but equally dangerous engine to run its offense through. USA Stars, coached by J.B. Bickerstaff, features the younger core of Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Devin Booker, Scotty Barnes, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Duren, and Jalen Johnson. The athletic upside on this roster is staggering. Edwards and Cunningham in particular are capable of producing viral, highlight reel moments in a setting that rewards aggression and individual brilliance. But the cohesion question looms large over a group that has never shared a court together outside of exhibition settings. 12 minutes is a brutally short window to establish chemistry, figure out who wants the ball in crunch time, and develop the kind of defensive communication that wins close games. Team World, coached by Darko Rajakovic, maybe the most talented of the three squads assembled for this event. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Karl Anthony Towns, Jamal Murray, Pascal Siakam, Deni Avdija, and Alperen Şengün, who replaced the injured Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, compose a roster that blends size, skill, passing, and basketball IQ at every position. The international team has historically played with more pride and urgency in global showcases, motivated by the desire to prove the rest of the world belongs on the same stage as America's best, and the round-robin format gives them a built-in narrative that writes itself. Prove the rest of the planet can outplay American basketball on American soil in front of an American crowd. Prediction markets reflect this perceived advantage with remarkable consistency. Polymarket data from early February shows Team World at approximately 57% probability to win the tournament outright, with USA Stripes at roughly 37% and USA Stars at 35%. Betting odds list Team World at 160, USA Stripes at 170, and USA Stars at 200. The rationale behind these numbers is straightforward. The international roster features the deepest collection of genuine two-way talent, and in a short game format where one hot shooting stretch or one dominant defensive sequence can single-handedly decide the outcome, having Jokic's court vision, Giannis's rim pressure, and Wembanyama's shot blocking all in the same rotation is a terrifying proposition for either opposing squad to game plan against. The MVP market tilts heavily toward one name that has dominated basketball conversation all season long. Victor Wembanyama leads most sportsbooks at approximately 500 odds, with an implied probability hovering around 18-19%. The logic behind that line is sound and difficult to argue against. Wembanyama is a content generation machine whose combination of chase-down blocks, deep pull-up threes, and above-the-rim finishes produces the kind of highlights that go viral within seconds of happening. In a format where standing out in a 12-minute window is the primary path to winning the award, his physical toolkit and competitive drive are uniquely suited to dominate the conversation. Other contenders include Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, and Kevin Durant, all of whom carry the kind of scoring variance that could produce a 20-point eruption in a 12-minute game. But the deeper question, the one that no prediction market or betting algorithm can meaningfully model, is whether this format actually produces the competitive intensity that the NBA has staked its reputation on delivering. The design is inspired by events like the NHL's Four Nations Face-Off and strategically timed to coincide with the 2026 Winter Olympics for a patriotic and global thematic hook. Every team plays at least twice before the championship, and the final game adds stakes that the traditional single-game format never provided. But effort has always been the variable that breaks All-Star weekends, the uncontrollable factor that makes every format tweak feel like rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. No structural change can force players to compete at full intensity if the culture of the event, built over decades of casual exhibition play, tells them that coasting is acceptable and expected. The head-to-head history between Curry and Ingram provides one final piece of context that explains why this replacement carries so little actual animosity between the two men involved. In 16 regular season meetings across their respective careers, Curry's teams hold a comfortable 10-6 advantage. Curry has averaged 24.3 points, 6.7 assists, and 4.8 rebounds in those matchups. Ingram has averaged 18.4 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 3.9 assists. There has been no documented conflict between them, no on-court incident, no trash talk caught on microphones, no social media exchange suggesting even a hint of personal tension. Their relationship is entirely professional and thoroughly unremarkable in a league that produces genuine rivalries and feuds on a regular basis, which is precisely why the manufactured outrage and fabricated quotes surrounding this replacement tell you infinitely more about the content economy and its insatiable appetite for drama than they do about either Stephen Curry or Brandon Ingram as human beings. Curry is nursing a knee. Ingram got the call. The All-Star Game will proceed on Sunday, with a format nobody has seen before, rosters stacked with once-in-a-generation talent at every position, and a viewing public that will likely tune in hoping for highlights, viral moments, and social media fodder rather than genuine sustained competitive intensity. That is the reality of where the NBA's mid-season showcase stands in 2026. Everything else is noise. What will matter most when the dust settles on this particular All-Star weekend is not whether Brandon Ingram deserved the spot more than Austin Reeves, or whether the round-robin format fixes the effort problem, or whether Team World's international pride translates into actual competitive fire for 4 consecutive 12-minute games. What will matter is whether Stephen Curry's knee responds to the 20 days of rest and rehabilitation the way the Warriors are praying it will, because the second half of the NBA season begins on February 19th, and Golden State needs its franchise cornerstone on the court for a playoff push that cannot afford any further disruption. The All-Star Game is one evening of entertainment. The rest of the season is what determines legacies. And Curry's legacy does not require another exhibition appearance to be cemented. It requires a healthy knee and a meaningful postseason run. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.